International Women's Day. We hope you had a really amazing day so far, and you had some celebrations going on in the morning. And now grab a cup of chai. All of us have our chais and coffees with us, and just sort of sit back and relax, and we'll entertain you for the next 1 hour. So just quick introductions. This is the main core team of Women in Energy Pakistan. One of our team members is actually getting home, which is part and parcel of how Women on the Move operate. So she'll join us momentarily, but so I'm Nameerah Hameed. I'm the National Chair for Women in Energy Pakistan. Quickly going around, we have Seher Abbas, who's chair for Karachi. Right below you see Aliya, she's chair for leadership at our network. Below me, hopefully you see Saadia, we're matching in green. She's chair in Islamabad. Next to her is Maha. She's also our chair in Islamabad. And then right back, we have Marium Khalid, she's chair for our Lahore hub. So we're gonna keep this very sort of quick and moving, and you're gonna see us interact in our natural states, which is very, very fiery and sort of lots of passion for what we're doing, shaking up the energy sector in Pakistan. So the first question that I'm gonna go and open up to everybody is, who's your role model, especially female role model? And let's start with Seher.
All right, so thanks, Nameerah, and really excited for our discussion today. So because I know we have a lot of things we've planned for this hour, so I'm going to keep it quick. So my female role model, and actually it took me some time to, because we don't have a lot of female role models, especially in power sector, but my role model actually is not someone from the power sector. Actually, I was thinking about Jacinda Ardern, who is the Prime Minister for New Zealand. I think she's obviously a female, but also one of the youngest people in such a high office in New Zealand. And what really struck to me about her is that women tend to often overcompensate in really strong leadership positions. They're expected to be, or they want to come across as very like aggressive, or come across as we define men to be in showing those leadership skills. But what I find amazing about her is that she's super confident in her skin. She's very honest and open. Every time you hear her speak, it really does feel that's coming from the heart. And something that like I really look for in leaders is empathy. And I feel like it's amazing women all over the world, and leaders actually. She's setting role like models and raising bars in dealing crisis, any kind, even COVID, like New Zealand was one of the best countries, the way they handled it. So I think Jacinda would be my role model.
Aliya, Saadia, Maha, Marium, whoever wants to jump in.
I'll go next. Oh, okay, so I'll go next. So Jacinda Ardern was one of my female role models, but I'm going to repeat. The other role model, and I agree with Seher, I think for me, anybody who, female leaders who are in leadership positions, but are also empathetic and have actually kept their feminine side in terms of being, a benevolent nurturer that women are known for. And for me, Fawzia Hassan and Daphne Gencer, both are senior energy specialists at the bank, and they're amazing. They're extremely competent at their work, but at the same time, they're great managers and great leaders, and great mentors for not just men, not just women, but also men in at the bank. So those two for me.
I'll go next. So I have somebody close to my line of work, even though we're practicing differently. There's a very amazing lawyer called Ambar. And I first met a couple of years ago when I was in private practice. And this is something that has resonated with all of us. What I loved about her was how comfortable she was in her skin. When you're in the legal profession, and Aliya may relate to it, you're always asked to dress down. You're always asked to kind of take away the makeup, dress in certain colors, tie your hair, because all of these are distractions in your profession, and people are not going to take you so seriously. There was this woman, Ambar. She's a barrister. She has a bachelor's in literature. She's currently based as an academic in London, but she was so comfortable in her skin. One other thing I loved about her was how she never had that false sense of superiority. You know, just because she was 10 years our senior or 20 years our senior, she didn't say, you have to call me madam. Even though it would have been fine, she was completely comfortable with the first name basis. And whether she was talking to somebody 10 years her junior or 20 years her senior, the warmth was never missing. So that is something, you know, very, very similar to what you girls said, that I liked how she retained her feminine side, yet she's been so amazing and she's excelled in a career, which is generally considered that you've got to dress down if you want to be taken seriously for your intelligence. So I'm with Afin.
I'll go next. I think I don't know if it'll be fair to attach a name to a role model. At least since what I'm looking for is, you know, a woman who can maybe juggle everything in life, but make it out alive. So, you know, the woman who finds the perfect balance between the workplace, between the family, between her home, and and learns to basically juggle all the different roles and hats she wears perfectly. Well, not perfectly. I mean, it's messy. It gets messy always, but just somebody who you know, does it well, does it with a smile. That's my role model.
Yeah, I would actually agree with Aliya. I was thinking along the same lines about how I've always been thinking about this question that can women have it all? Is that even possible? And we see so many women who are leaders who are doing such an amazing job, and not only their leadership positions, but also taking care of their families, overall, just being empathetic people, and some people who people can look up to as well. So that's been amazing. So that's what I was thinking. And a lot of women come to mind. I think it won't be fair to single just one.
Absolutely. I mean, I love hearing all of these, sort of what inspires us personally. And just as I said, inspires us, we have our 7th team member joining us. This is Hiraba Jahad. She's chair for our Karachi chapter. She's on the move. She was traveling from Islamabad to Karachi just now. And she's definitely someone with the most energy in this entire group, I would say. She's just always on the roll. So Hira, what we're discussing right now is who inspires us. And if you have anyone personally, professionally, and if you want to jump in.
Yeah, I think from my side, anybody who, being a female, has a certain level of education. I kind of aspire to do my PhD to somebody who's very highly educated, somebody who can speak their mind and you know, demand what is their right. Those are the kind of women who inspire me, and I have a whole long list. So generally, that's the kind of behavior trait I look for.
Amazing. And this is the perfect sort of combination of conversations to move into our sort of what I wanted to discuss next, which was the importance of female friendships and importance of these networks. So just as a recap, I'm sure a lot of our members know already the reason and how Women in Energy was formed. So this is back in 2017 when a few of us, so Saadia, Maha, Marium, and a few of us, Aliya, met in Lahore, and we were working in the public sector at the time, a lot of us. And this is, for example, for me, I was the only female employee in a 50 male sort of employee base in the Government of Punjab Energy Department. And you would see in those little instances where, you know, there's a female bathroom, but it was so dirty because it hadn't been used in 3 or 4 months. There were pigeons inside. So, you know, those anecdotes are just hilarious to look back on, but that also shows if you don't have enough women employees, that would also mean that you don't have enough female decision makers at the table. And that's just so important when you have these engineering graduates or these economics and policy graduates and they see the workforce, it becomes a deterrent when you don't already see women taking, you know, leadership positions. So our origins are a few of us met in my mother's garden under a beautiful spring sort of mahal, and we decided, okay, what do we need? We need to be professional. We want to move past WhatsApp groups. Okay, a lot of female networks are like that, and that's great. But we wanted to show, okay, we can be just as professional as some of the male professional networks that you see, and that's where you get authority. When you move from informal networks to a formal professional network that's demanding for change in this sector. So we got our MOU signed, where Aliya was pushing from the other side. She was working with Punjab Commission on the Status of Women, and she sort of pushed. I was pushing from the energy department, she was pushing from the other side, and the two sort of came together to sign an MOU to give a proper official institutional backing to this network from the government of Punjab and the Punjab Commission on the Status of Women. So again, the importance of female friendships. Aliya and I didn't know each other before, but she saw the importance of why we needed to make this network, and she pushed for it. A few of the others, Hira, I didn't know before. She reached out and she said, dude, we need to start this in Karachi. What are you guys doing? This is very Punjab centric right now. And yeah, so that's how it started. If anyone wants to jump in on female friendships, why you in particular wanted to be a part of Women in Energy, feel free to jump in now.
Can I go next?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So, I mean, I had similar experience as you, Nameerah. So when I started out, I was the only, actually I started at Nespark, so I had a female boss, but then, and my first project was working on a hydropower project. So anybody who's attended meetings in a government building, they have these large meeting rooms, and there's a large oval table, and there's seats at the back. And in a room full of 50 men, you'll have one or two women in that room, and mostly they'll be sitting at the back. You won't get a seat at the table. And this was an occurrence at every meeting I would go to, whether it was Wabda House, whether it was NTDC, whether it was any other government organization. And what happens with these meetings is, when you have so many men, and especially what happens within the room, I mean, still, it's not that uncomfortable. When you step out of the room, and when their tea breaks and they're men, just naturally, they form these circles, and they discuss the project, discuss politics, and then you're sort of left out, because as a woman, I felt uncomfortable. How do I actually become part of the circle? And it's so important, because important discussions happen during tea breaks. And over time, I realized it was easier when there was another woman or women in the room in that meeting. It was just, naturally I would connect to them, and compared to me only going and breaking that or becoming part of the group of men, it was easier when I had somebody else, another woman with me. I just felt more confident. I felt more confident and comfortable speaking up in those meetings. I mean, as a junior economist, somebody who's just come out of university, it is difficult in our culture. And over time, I've also realized that it's not that they're not deliberately excluding you, but because of our society and our culture, men actually do not know how to interact with women. Because, I mean, in universities, you'll see all the girls will naturally just sit on one side of the room, and the boys would just go and sit on the other side of the room. So, and over time, it's so good because of this network and and just generally, our society is becoming progressive and better. So you have more women in the power sector. So now there are more female voices, or technical female professionals in those meetings. But there's still a lot of conferences where you have manuals, and then women energy comes, and then we advocate for more females on conferences and meetings. So for me, this group, having more women has been so important in my journey as a female professional in the power sector, which is male dominated.
Yeah. So Seher and Maha, when you go after, do also sort of explain where you're working right now, just as an introduction to where you are in your professional life right now.
Sure. So I think when Nameerah and I first physically met, we'd been connected over email, of course, because we were both part of the energy sector. I was at the Sustainable Development Policy Institute at the time when we first connected. But when we first physically met, I just moved to Lahore and was looking for like-minded women in the energy sector, right? And we'd had these informal conversations where we talked about the importance of women in energy and how we thought there were just so few of us, right? That was the impression that we'd originally gotten. And then I think it was just 2 weeks after that I met Saadia and Marium actually at the International Conference on Energy Conservation and Efficiency, I think it was. Anyway, so we're there, we're all speaking, but we hadn't really been introduced, right? But it's always so refreshing to see other women in a sector that is so male dominated, right? And so naturally we gravitated towards each other, exchange business cards, and I think that's that, right? And I think it's similar what we were saying as well, that men tend to gravitate towards men, women tend to gravitate towards women, I think culturally as well, because of how we have often been conditioned to just find women only spaces and kind of find comfort there. And especially in a sector that has largely been so male dominated, and as energy is. So it's always so refreshing to find like-minded women. And we were so pleasantly surprised that there were so many of us. We just didn't know each other, you know? So Seher, off to you.
Thanks, Maha. So just quickly, I am currently an IFC and working in the infrastructure sector, so on power. And I am probably the newest member of this group. And I honestly feel that I'm super lucky to be amongst all of you. So I actually had joined K Electric recently, and I was in the finance department, and that is extremely male dominated. Power, as we all know, is a male dominated sector, and finance is generally also, so it was double negative. And then, there were a lot of interesting anecdotes that happened, and we can talk about those later. But one of my friends who was actually a chair, Umul, was one of the chairs before me. So she added me to this group, and then we were constantly engaging and talking about stuff. And then when I joined IFC as a consultant, she said that she's moving out, and if I'm interested to be part of this group. So I was already in the group, in the WhatsApp group. I was getting a lot from all these women. And when I got in, I honestly feel like that was a stroke of luck. And you guys are way more qualified and have really cool experiences, but I'm super excited to be here. So, and I think women really the support that we give each other, and just small things. I feel and we can talk about this later as well, but when we talk about stuff women generally tend to internalize problems or criticism, and men tend to externalize. And that was first-hand experience, because I was working in different sectors, but Electric was my first corporate experience, and dominated by chartered accountants. I have a lot of stories to tell you. You have to shut me, Nameerah, when you want me to quiet down. But generally, so if you don't have women around you, so I really went into some level of depression, because I felt I wasn't good enough, and everyone knew everything and I didn't. And then later on, when I started talking to different women in the sector, I realized generally, if someone criticizes you, you find fault in yourself, but men don't do that. I had colleagues who'd be cursing the boss, he's the problem and he doesn't know how to manage and he doesn't know this. And I would never curse the boss. I'd be oh my God, I suck at this. So I think all these things, it's important for us to pull each other together and be each other's support, because I think we are wired slightly different.
Yeah, thanks, Seher. I'm just going to jump right in and speak very concisely. This was probably the first, actually, this was the first network that I had something to do with forming. And at the time, it was, I have to give credit to, my leadership, who was female and who was very passionate about, setting up networks and the importance of mentorship and networking for women, especially. And again, in the energy sector, because there's such a disparity between men and women, between numbers of men and women. So a lot of credit also generally in life goes to good leadership, supportive leadership, passionate leadership. Otherwise we'd really be at a loss in terms of networking.
In now. And what you said, Seher, it resonates with me. It's called the imposter syndrome, right? And now I came from a background, I was in private practice in Islamabad, and it was mostly international mining disputes, arbitration, mediation, corporate work. So I was moving cities. Before that, I'd been in Australia for 4 years. So I was moving back to Lahore after 8 years to live. And I took up a job with the government in Punjab Energy Efficiency Conservation Agency. It was a brand new setup, by the government at that time under the energy department to work on demand side management. And my first few months were exactly what the head said. I was working with engineers. I'm not a technical person. I'm a lawyer. And I was thinking, why did they hire me? How am I supposed to contribute here? And then a few months later, Saadia ended up. And it was so refreshing to have Saadia there because women help out women as well. It's a myth, that we don't do that for each other, because Saadia was instrumental in getting my solid base there and always reminding me that don't compare yourself with others. Compare yourself with what you know right now to when you started out. And that really helped, because every time I would have one of those moments that Seher's talking about, that I'm not good enough. Obviously, I can't compete with a technical person. My entire training has been in the law. And energy sector law isn't exactly something that you come to terms with overnight. That also takes time. It's a very niche area. So I think this is something that having this network really reminded you. And one thing which I believe is a USP, because my story of how I ended up being here is similar. I knew Saadia. Through Saadia, I met Nameerah, then I met Maha. And that's amazing story of being in your garden where we founded this. It's such a wonderful memory. But really, it really helps, because energy, we always say that our USP is the fact that our network is interdisciplinary. You have a lot of networks focused on engineering per se, but our network actually focuses on the entire spectrum of energy, which I really like. We have lawyers, policymakers, economists, financial analysts. So that back and forth of information, just sitting with each other and thrashing out ideas, I think it's very helpful. So this has been a lifesaver. And I think women in other sectors like law, and today we just founded Women in Energy, say the exact same thing, that importance of women networks. Yeah.
So I will take a cue from there. And I think in my case, I've been really, really lucky, because I have always had, I somehow have had the opportunity to work in women-only teams. And I think I've done my best work in women-only teams. And some of the kind of opportunities that I got were because there were no men around us, so to speak. So I think for me, it was very interesting when I sort of started. So some of the work that we started doing in the energy sector, that's when I first came across this notion of, but aap to khatoon hain, aapke daftar ke mard kahan hain. And then, yeah, that was, and as I heard it from the Solar Association, we heard it from the Energy Department, and in fact, the Punjab Energy Department was where I met Nameerah. So that was my first introduction to her. And yes, I recall very distinctly that she was the only woman there, at that time as well. I mean, there were a few others, but I'm not really sure where they were. But yeah, so I think this notion for me that there are male-dominated and female-dominated industries perhaps came from the energy sector as well. I mean, I have studied, my undergraduate is in engineering, and my class was 35 women to 15 men. So I generally feel that in Pakistan, generally, there are a lot more women in universities. Unfortunately, somehow that doesn't materialize or come out on the other spectrum when we actually enter into the workforce. Multiple reasons. I mean, there's marriage, there's culture, there's whatever else. Also, our faculty is mostly female engineers, right? So maybe it's like a job security kind of thing for them. But so it was quite an interesting notion. But I do feel, and one of the reasons why I was very, very interested to have women in energy in Karachi was to support and at least, I mean, again, like I say, I've always been really, really lucky in a crazy sort of way that I have been able to do things, but everybody else is not. So it would be nice to sort of, give back, help out, and see how you can, support those other young girls or even other senior members who might need the kind of female friendships that, they don't get in their workplace otherwise.
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. And so I do remember when I joined energy department, it was like that. But the reason that this network was formed was also because we had male champions for us since the beginning. They are out there. You just have to find them and spot them. So just sort of jumping into, from importance of female friendships and female networks to also we need male champions with us along the side, because at present we do have a majority of male CEOs and chairmen and heads of organizations, and it's them who need to take time out, not just on Women's Day, but throughout the year to support us. So for example, the MOU for Women in Energy was signed by a male secretary of the Energy Department who saw the need for this. Similarly, one of the private sector organizations, CEO of Shams, director of Shams, Umar Malik Saab, we rave about him because for the last two 2 years, he's been one of those male champions. Whenever we ask him to come on a panel, he's there. He speaks on our behalf when we don't, he says what we would have said. So he's the perfect male champion. Some of our other bosses as well, for Saadia, for Marium, for a lot of us, we've needed these male bosses to champion on our behalf, and also male colleagues who would call you into the meeting when you weren't invited to that meeting and you should have been in that meeting, and they'll be like, what's happening, you dude, you should be here, this is your project, you're leading this. So just एक तो हमारा network, but साथ साथ में male champions championing on our behalf is super, super important. Adding to this and adding more sort of complexity to all of this is the whole debate that we have, can women have it all? एक पूरा हमारे 2 वो debates चलते हैं international sort of discourse में. Sheryl Sandberg, जो CEO हैं Facebook की, उन्होंने कहा था कि women need to put themselves forward. Like हमारी अपनी गलती है कि हम अपने आप को इतना आगे नहीं करते. We can have it all, just ask for it, like extra जो भी करना है. And on the other hand, आपकी Anne-Marie हैं जो Anne-Marie Slaughter, there we go. She says that actually no, it's the structure that we're in that doesn't allow women to have and make the best of both family life as well as work life. So the structure is extra demanding. If for example there's a mother and we have 3 here on our call, and I'm going to ask Seher, Saadia and Aliya to jump in on this, the structure doesn't allow us to have it all because you're doing double the work. So off to you, ladies, these amazing mothers. And yeah, what do you think?
I'll jump in. So I think like this quote everyone's seen around, that women are expected to work like they're not mothers, and they're expected to be mothers like they're not working. So I think there is that clash. Like I'm a mother of 2, so I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 2.5-year-old son. And there is obviously a huge challenge when we're trying to balance both things out. But and this connects me with like who I mentioned as role model. Jacinda also, actually, I was just going through an interview and she mentions that I'm a mother, yet I don't want people to think that I'm a Wonder Woman. Like women should not be, when we have this debate of multitasking, so we kind of are giving that burden, we should be able to do a lot of things. Like women are great multitaskers and they can be mothers, they can work, yes, like, but there shouldn't be so much burden that we should be able to do everything, right? And like you said, Nameerah, male champions really, really, really are important in our husbands. When working mothers, like we need a partner who's equally supportive and who shares the responsibility of being a father, right? So being a mother, also like as parenthood, it should not just be like motherhood, right? So there are times when we share responsibilities. When I had to travel, my husband as in stepped in, and like he was taking care of both my kids for 2 nights, and I was in Islamabad. And it's what I think, like, and now with more awareness and with more education, we do find such men who are able to support. But the society, like the kind of, I don't want to like sell him down, but like it was slightly annoying because the kind of celebration, the accolades he got and the praise he got is like, whoa, you did it for 2 nights, you kept to, and I was like, he's a father, like he's supposed to do that. Like I didn't ask a man walking on the street, hey, we'll take care of my kids. So no, I'm just saying, like, it's amazing. Like I'm glad that he's like that, but हम जब तक छोटी छोटी मर्दों की चीजों को इतना हुर्रा करते रहेंगे तो वो normalize कैसे होएगी? Like the bare minimum है ना? Like this is the bare minimum. You're a father, like you have to do that.
These are his
exactly the father duties. But no, like, but yes, like I can't be grateful enough because he's an amazing partner. He's a great father and equally supportive, and I think that's required for us to be able to do.
Saadia के अंदर कुछ इस वक्त
अच्छा मैं चुप हो रही हूँ सादिया.
No, I absolutely agree with what Seher said. I mean, importance of having a partner who is not helping you when they're sharing or when they're doing their part of the household work or managing children. मुझे help वाला जो है ना, that they're celebrated because it's thought by our society that they're so good, they're helping you, because our fathers honestly didn't do that. So this generation, I agree, is much, much better. I mean, similar experience, if I didn't have my husband taking care of my son, I mean, I have two children. I have 2.5-year-old son, and then I have a 4-month-old daughter. And I wouldn't have been able to go back to maternity leave go back after maternity leave to work after 3 months if I didn't have this support system. And when they say it takes a village to raise children, because it is full-time responsibility. It's not like your cats and dogs that you can just leave them on your own and they'll take care of yourself. I mean, बच्चे पालना बहुत अच्छी खासी responsibility. And when you're a working mother, एक तो वो society का भी होता है, there's a lot of pressure on being a woman, on being a mother, and then it's also internalized as well. And especially when you don't have a support system, like you don't have your family here, and you have to send your children daycare. And I know, like, Seher has gone through the same. There's so many women who've gone through the same. The mother's guilt of being away from your child because of you're working, and then people telling you that oh, your child is going to get आपकी attachment नहीं होगी, you're not going to have the same bond. It really brings you down. So what has helped me is talking to people or women who are in leadership positions, have gone through the same challenge, same journey. And when they told me that, you know, it's difficult, you don't strive for perfection. You don't have to be a perfect mother, and I don't know what perfect mother, being perfect mother means anyways. And you don't have to be perfect at your work as well. You just prioritize. At times, work will take a priority when you have a deadline. At times, your family will take priority. That has really helped, talking to women who've gone through similar journeys and challenges. And I mean, just sharing my experience, I think last year, I've actually cried in my office because my son was, you know, getting sick all the time. He was going to daycare. I was sick, and then we had our office trek. We went to Manal, and I got a call from my son's daycare that your son is sick, so come and pick him up. And I remember picking him up and going to my office, and I cried. And that's the only time I've cried in office. And then female colleague of mine, you know, consoling, that's fine. You know, you're not ruining your child. Your child, if anything, if he's going daycare, he's going to be more independent. So again, you know, importance of hearing other females who've gone through the same situation is so relieving. That's it.
Okay, I'll jump in. I think the first time I went back to work was when my son was 2.5 months. And it wasn't even a job. I literally had, an assignment for a week. And I gave my mother a call 5 times during that day because it was the first time that I was leaving him. I had all kinds of emotions. There was guilt, there was worry, there was, just hysteria at some level as well. But he's now turning 15 months soon. And, I want to tell all women who do potentially go through this or who are going through this that there is light at the end of the tunnel, as long as you, like Seher and Saadia both mentioned, as long as you, have the village, as long as you have a supportive partner, you have family nearby, or you have good childcare or daycare centers available. It's not that women can't have it all. Like one of you mentioned earlier that Saadia mentioned that you have to prioritize. You also have to be extremely organized and literally as a mom think of, 100 things that could possibly happen but may never happen, but you still got to take account of those. So yeah, it's a rough road, but it's definitely worth it. On both accounts, it's worth it for your personal care that you continue working as long as you can manage to maintain a balance. And it will be, as Saadia said, good for your child to spend time with other grown-ups in the family, just to get used to other people apart from you.
Yeah. And do you want to talk about the importance of mentorships? Because that's something, I mean, this is clearly what all of us are talking about for Saadia, for everyone here, you needed to have that sort of female colleague, but also a sort of mentor to look up to who was balancing this very difficult balance act. And that's something that we want to work on for Women in Energy as well, that if certain female, employees do not have natural mentors at work, then we want to provide that and sort of fill that gap with providing mentors. Do you want to just quickly take us through?
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to do through the mentorship program that Women in Energy has begun. We are trying to link up younger women in the energy sector with older, more experienced women who have been working for a considerable number of years. And basically, the importance of mentorship lies in the fact that you can learn from another person's experience. If you are facing an experience, chances are there are some women who are who have been faced with the same issues for many, many years and who have that experience of how to tackle the issue. And it always helps to get some kind of guidance, as well as, just some hand holding sometimes, if that's what you need, from an older woman, from a more experienced woman. And that's what we're trying to achieve through the mentorship program. The model that we're following is 2-to-1 or 3-to-1. So it's also supposed to be quite, it's supposed to give everybody that individual attention that they require. Over to you, Nameerah.
Yeah, no, we're super excited. So Aliya, from amongst this group, she doesn't have an energy background, but we were so sort of keen to have her join us because she has an amazing portfolio working on leadership for women work. So moving on to sort of some funny, good or bad incidents that we've had at work that, either they could be funny just in terms of acha is tarah ki cheezein bhi hoti hain, or something that's, sort of injustice se bhari hui at work that we've seen. So vent away, ladies. Let's share. I think Hira, we'll start with you.
I think it would be a funny or good or bad. In fact, well, work related, I told you the most negative one, the venting one was, where somebody asked me, where are the men in your organization? But a funny one would be when Seher and I organized the Karachi event, and we were at K Electric, and this room full of about, I think 25 or 30 female, engineers and women in energy. We're sitting there for the session, and one of the companies in Karachi insisted that they want to send 2 participants to attend, right? And we said, more than welcome, please send them. And it turned out that I was under the impression they'd send female employees, and they sent 2 male employees. And so these 2 men walk into this room full of 25 women, and I think the look on their faces, it was just like, like what just happened, right? It's like you could just see that they were like so uncomfortable. And I think that's the first time I probably, it occurred to me that these guys don't know how to handle it. It's, like we as women have probably become so used to being the only one in the room. We figured it out or cracked it to some extent. But those guys, it was just the 2 of them, and they didn't know where to sit, and they didn't know how to talk. And one of them actually said something in such a nervous way. It just came out wrong, right? And it was so. So I think that was for me a learning as well. But it was, to be very honest, really funny. Just seeing the 2 of them uncomfortable. I'm sounding really mean, but it was. But it was just like, for 2 minutes, I was like, what just happened? But yeah.
No, of course.
Must have been like, welcome to our world.
सही बात है. For me, I think it was also like इससे मुझे गुस्सा इतना ज़्यादा चढ़ता था कि like अभी भी when we're working with a lot of sort of private companies but also public companies, होता क्या है कि हम कहते हैं कि you need more female sort of workforce in your organization. वो कहते हैं जी हमने अभी तो रखी है, HR की head भी है, admin की head भी है, अभी तो हमने इतनी ज़्यादा रखी है, secretaries भी हमारी सारी female, and we're like, इनको कैसे समझाएं कि that's great, आप admin head, HR heads रखें female, but what we're talking about is also fill up those important technical positions with females, right? Like जब आपको ज़रूरत पड़ती है meeting में किसी वो जोरदार किस्म की important topics to discuss करने के लिए, you turn to your technical heads and also decision making वाली positions, आपका COO या CFO या ये जो सारी director level की positions हैं. So I think मुझे सर मारने के दिल चाह रहा होता है against the wall के please, we're not talking about कि आपने sort of entry level पे सारी female भर दी हैं, also take them up on the pyramid, उनको बाकी सारी positions पे भी you need to have females, and that's just something that just irks me so much. Saadia, do you have something to add?
So I had an oh sorry, So I had an amusing experience recently where I'm heading this technical assistance work at the bank for on energy or हमने presentation देनी थी to a government organization, and this person who was the focal point asked me who's going to present, and I said, no, I'm the task team leader, so I'll present. So like, can you ask your senior colleague to come? Male, he didn't say male, but the senior colleague is male. So can you ask him to attend the meeting as well? Because we have secretaries in that meeting, so it'll be good to have somebody senior. And then he also mentioned you should probably to my foreigner, we have a foreign consultant as well, ask him to join as well, because obviously as a Pakistani female young energy specialist, I wasn't enough to be attending the meeting with secretaries because मैं तो उनकी senior level हुई नहीं. So I mean, even when you're heading work, when you are the TTL and your male colleagues within your organization are encouraging you, people on the other side will be the barrier, or how can a female non-engineer in the power sector come and present or can attend a meeting or present when you have secretaries. So I found it really, really amusing.
I can imagine. Hira and Seher, I see your faces.
I have a lot of stories to tell, like because of being in finance, and people who said this are actually now good friends. They were nice, but it's just that it's not ingrained hai. They don't even realize that वो कोई inappropriate बात कर रहे हैं, right? So when I joined finance in KE, so passing में they're like, so आप खाना कब ला रही हैं? इसीलिए तो हमने लड़की को IFC में वो finance में रखा है. And you're like, wait, am I supposed to laugh to that? How do you and then they'd say something completely inappropriate and they'd laugh and they'd be like, that was a joke. Come on, it's a joke. And then I was also so many things that women are, sorry if I'm getting too animated.
No, this is good.
That's what we need.
But stuff and this colleague obviously is a good friend, but he was he brought his shadi ka card and he's like, say, can you write these 3 names? I'm guessing your writing is better than mine. I was like, what? It's just because and obviously my writing sucks, right? I know that. So many example pe likh ke diya. He's like, मैं खुद ही लिख लेता हूँ. मैं खुद ही लिख लेता हूँ. See, why do you expect me to have good handwriting just because I'm a woman? मेरी handwriting अच्छी होगी. And इस तरह की, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, शादी के कार्ड से मुझे याद आया when I got married about a year ago. एकदम से question था, अच्छा फिर आपका next steps. वो कहने लगे था आप कब जा रही हैं? जाना बनता है, हो सकता है मेरा हस्बैंड कहीं जा रहा हो. अब मोनी में बता रही कि असल में क्या हुआ, पर क्वेश्चन कि अच्छा इसको प्रमोशन तो अब इसको नेक्स्ट नहीं मिलनी है, अगर वो शादी हो रही है या प्रेग्नेंट हो रही है, नेक्स्ट प्रोजेक्ट भी इनको नहीं मिलना चाहिए. थोड़ा अर्सा देख के कि इफ दे लीव और नॉट लीव, बट लेकिन अगर बंदे की शादी हो रही है फिर कोई ऐसा सवाल नहीं होता है.
Sorry. I think we become so animated and so excited about this that now we just. But I mean, मुझे जैसे Nameerah का जो है वो शादी होने पे था when this was 6 months after I got married and I was working in a USAID funded project, and this person asked me, अच्छा अब आप 6 महीने हो गए, अब आप ऐसा करें कि आप बच्चा पैदा कर लें और फिर आप घर बैठें, क्योंकि जो है ना अभी मेरे बच्चे को, क्योंकि my wife was working, so मेरे बच्चे ने अपनी दादी को अम्मा कहना शुरू किया था. Like मेरी अम्मा को क्या है, वो दादी को क्या है या नानी को क्या, I am working, and who are you to tell me? So
no,
yeah,
and this,
I mean,
like you said already. Sorry, go ahead.
No, now since everybody's silent, I was recently doing this research study on gender equity and energy access, and I interviewed, I think, close to about 10 to 12 females in the energy space. And it was, I've heard everything from girls telling people they're already married when they're not, to, women in the field actually telling people or so there was one person I've met who's been on the field, and she's been doing work in the off-grid and rural areas as a salesperson throughout. And I think for her, it was like, anytime I go somewhere, it's okay for the men to look at me and, be in the vicinity where I'm sitting, but my male colleagues cannot see their wives because unka parda hai. So it's like all sorts of things, but just the fact that, and in addition, I've also so in the interview, women who've come across who've said that मेरे तो CEO मुझे घर ड्रॉप करने के लिए गाड़ी भिजवाते थे, because I was the only woman there, and he didn't want to send me off alone. So it's actually like a broad spectrum, and the funny thing is, I've not experienced any of this, in my work. So sometimes it's just like, where is this going? But yes, I can empathize that, all sorts of stories do happen, and it's funny, good, bad, but still. Maha, you want to add something to that?
इसी आपके अंदर से वो भर रही होगी थोड़ी सी.
Sure. To be honest, there'll be so many funny stories, but I think Abhi recently, I can just recall the fact that recently, I think it was last week that I was in Nameerah, and there was like an entire waiting room full of men. And I just walked in and sat and I was doing my work or whatnot, and then I feel like all the men just started getting really, really uncomfortable because of my presence. And I feel like it's kind of just expected कि अगर कोई like completely male space है, आप उसमें आप अपनी ना शरीफों की तरह आप तो साइड पे हो जाओगे, you wouldn't really dare to enter a male room, so उस किस्म की stories are just like that just happened very recently, so it's just fresh in my mind. But it's the electric regulator, right? And being the odd one there, it just like feels so infuriating because of course we're going to be there, we're going to be everywhere in all spaces.
Marium?
I just think because what most of you are talking about, मेरा exact opposite है. I realize कि because I'm not married, तो मुझे कभी-कभी बहुत सी चीजों से पीछे रहना पड़ता है. I'm uncomfortable about networking with some people. I'll make sure अगर मैंने WhatsApp picture लगाई है और मैं क्योंकि government में we don't get our own numbers, we have our own, we don't get government के numbers, so I'm a bit careful with that कि family की picture लगी हो. So मेरा government में ये वाला experience है कि you want to keep a certain distance because you don't want people to think that just because you're single, you're up for attention. ये एक अजीब सी कोई intrusion, I think female professionals experience. People just feel they have the audacity to comment on whatever they want to. And as Seher said, laugh at it. No, it's not funny. And if it's not funny, I'm not going to laugh. So this needs to change as well, this conditioning. अगर आपने कोई awkward चीज बोली है और वो awkward किसी को लग रही है तो just laugh about it and say, but I was only joking. And make the other person feel like, oh my God, you're taking it so seriously. So ये professional line औरतों के साथ करना, which is also warm because Saadia ने भी शायद पहले कहा था कि आदमी को समझ नहीं आती किस तरह interact करना है, and sometimes they're more comfortable dealing with somebody much older rather than a mid-tier professional woman. So hopefully cultural mixed, when you will see more women in female space, तो एक तरीका आ जाएगा कि professionally आपने किस तरह address करना है. One thing that I've always found very strange is people just don't know how to address female professionals. या आप बीवी बन जाती हैं अगर किसी ने आपसे condescending तरीके में बात करनी है because they want you to realize कि आप इधर हैं हम इधर हैं, but there's a very fine line in how to address women, and I think ये बहुत से senior आदमियों को भी नहीं पता, because the best way to make you feel like you don't belong or you don't know what you're talking about is या वो बेटा बेटा शुरू कर देंगे rather than calling you by your professional designation, या फिर आप बीवी हो जाएंगी if they want to be condescending. So I think this is something that needs to be worked on by the male professionals. Can we learn how to address your female colleagues and women that you're talking across the sector by their designations? They've earned that. And women should also feel comfortable in owning up to it. Okay, bhai, this is my designation. You're not going to call me by any other thing. And if I'm sitting here, I belong here. End of story.
No, I think, Marium, while we're talking, and this is how most of our projects also get created, is while we're talking, we're like, nay, this is something that needs to be worked on to kar lete hain. But I feel like it'll be very important to at least start a discourse on Twitter or Medium का blog या whatever कि पाकिस्तान में professional arenas में ख़वातीन employees को क्या कह के बुलाना चाहिए. I think a lot of male colleagues don't even know कि जो वो बीबी कह के बुलाते हैं कि it feels demeaning.
It's condescending. It is condescending.
मैडम करके बुलाते हैं, मुझे ठीक लगता था, but I know कि कहीं और areas में वो फिर there are different
Khatoon. I've heard Khatoon as well, and they felt it's very respectful, but it's odd. It's just
it doesn't feel right, exactly.
Do we call somebody
and just a style?
आप किसी आदमी को मर्द तो नहीं कहोगे in the workplace.
It's so disrespectful, just call them by the designation.
Name, or their name, like, and just very quick.
Just learn कि आपने क्या कहना है, मतलब ये law में एक discourse शुरू हुई थी because a high court justice was called something inappropriate in the courtroom, and she said them right, this is what you need to call me and you better address me like that. So I think women also need to have that bone कि जब किसी को किसी जगह में बैठाना है तो you do it. It needs to be done because people are not aware at times of what they need.
Yeah.
And just
Women
something very, very
justices
small.
still get called my lord.
Sorry, go ahead, Aliya.
I said women justices still get called my lord.
Yeah, no, that's true. And just
Madam, even in the court.
In some offices,
Because
they'd
they're
say,
just not-
Madam Chairman. And you're just like, no, Madam Chairman is not right.
That's an oxymoron. But yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think वही चीज है ना कि इनको आदत नहीं है seeing women in power. So more women in power means कि भाई claim your public space. ये आपकी भी जगह and you work very hard to get there and don't feel shy in owning up to it. मैंने कभी कभी ये भी देखा even myself that sometimes I try to shrink into my space and I try to kind of quell my voice and then I have to remind myself no, don't do it. You know the answer to this, say it. You don't have to be that sort. I don't want to attract attention to myself. So yeah, I think women also need to work on themselves to just be a certain. Because इसी तरह you'll make your space.
And just that, I think numbers increase. One thing that I often felt is that, yes, you find you want to meet a quota, कि इतनी औरतें इधर होनी चाहिए, उधर होनी चाहिए. But like before that, I feel like men, like we've been talking about, need to be trained. Like एक वो enabling environment, when you talk about that, something very basic would obviously be like women washrooms, right? But beyond that, like you need to have that mindset change that you need to put your like directors and chiefs, C-class people in a room, give them training, like just throwing like exactly, like so many things that they don't know how to talk to them, how to engage them. Just having a woman in an office is, you're not meeting, like you're not doing anyone any good. Yes, you're meeting a quota, but that's precisely it. So unless you provide that training so that they know how to interact, because like that's what I felt in a lot of corporate environments. It's high level companies, highly educated men and women, but they don't know how to be comfortable around women. So I feel that comes before you just start throwing women at a problem.
I completely agree with you. ये sensitization trainings होनी चाहिए because it's high time, bhai. It's high time that women can sit in. As Saadia said, sometimes the most important work happens in informal settings. और जब तक आपकी 2-3 लड़कियां एक meeting में ना हो, you will miss out on it. Because you yourself will feel so uncomfortable. I think automatically when a number of men get together, they kind of launch into this informal jokes. ये भी एक चीज खत्म होने वाली है कि भाई आप अपने जोक्स को भी जेंडर न्यूट्रल रखें. नहीं फनी होते जोक्स, आपके अजीब से ऑफेंसिव ह्यूमर होता है.
What is Women in Energy as a network does, right? Like we get together, we talk about everything which is wrong in the sector, but we don't leave it at that. And that's what makes us different from so many other informal groups around in Pakistan and around the world, where this is the sort of a brainstorming, behind the scenes brainstorming session that we work on. So we've talked about workplace में ख़वातीन को कौन से उर्दू में किन लफ्ज़ों से आप बुला सकते हैं, and that's something that we really want to get a discourse started on, and then have some appropriate names ready. Blog pe, Twitter pe, whatever, we're happy to use our platforms to publish that, but that's something that we really want to do. And also, if private companies and male organizations need to consult us in sensitizing their employees on how sort of male-female interactions should be, feel free to reach out to us. We work with one private solar company in Lahore on their gender policy. We think this is unprecedented for sort of medium to small organizations and companies in Pakistan ke ek gender policy honi chahiye, and this will cover a lot of topics. So if you are a male employee or a head of the organization tuning in, feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to put you in touch with some of our resources, because this is not just talk, this is brainstorming. We want to work on everything that we've spoken about in this session. So wrapping up, this has been an amazing hour. We haven't touched the hour yet, but just wrapping up in the last few minutes, I think each one of us wants to sort of quickly go over some of the projects that we're working on in 2021, starting with something that we have coming up later this week. So Maha, Saadia, do you want to just go ahead?
Sure. So this was lovely, and it was really great celebrating all you lovely ladies today on International Women's Day. Just to add to this, inshallah, we're having an event on the 12th of March that is entirely dedicated to continuing the spirit of celebrating women. And we'll have some amazing women in leadership speaking to you. We'll have a networking night, and we'll have a comedy for you as well. So we hope to share the details soon, inshallah, on all our platforms, but just mark your calendars for the 12th of March.
So we're also planning a study tour in collaboration with WAPDA to one of their hydropower projects, so Turbela Dam, and we'll send you details. Anyone who is just interested in hydropower or just looking at what engineering marvel Turbela is, please do join.
So those are just the few activities that are coming up in the next couple of months. Other than that, networking, we're huge on that. So we're creating these virtual forums for you, for female sort of professionals to network amongst each other across the cities, get to know each other and collaborate on projects, just like this group of 7 amazing, badass, kick-ass women were able to do for Women in Energy Pakistan. So with that, thank you so much for tuning in. This was a lot of energy, a lot of caffeine-filled energy at your disposal for entertainment. But yeah, we haven't done these informal sessions since ever. And क्योंकि अब आजकल हर चीज़ virtual हो चुकी है, we thought, why not get together? हम लोग तो आपस में conversation करते रहते हैं, but let's open it up to our members. So if you like this, let us know. We might have more of these. But yeah, thank you so much for putting your trust in us, for working on your behalf, and shaking up the energy sector in Pakistan. So thank you so much, and hope you guys have a lovely rest of the week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy International Women's Day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.